The original Valfaris holds a very special place in my heart, as it was the first game I ever reviewed on YouTube in any sort of professional manner. It didn't hurt that it was a wonderful 2D action platformer in its own right. Now the franchise returns at last, but this go around we have a more arcade-style shoot-'em-up experience. Does this shift in gameplay spell disaster for Valfaris Mecha Therion? Or is it firing on all cylinders? Let's find out in our full review. But speaking of fire, our Patreon is burning hot. Head on over to patreon.com/idreamofindiegames to gain Discord access, exclusive live streams, early ad-free shows, a new podcast, and so much more. Your community is waiting for you. Valfaris Mecha Therion. It takes place after the events of the original Valfaris, and you once again take control of Therion, who's out to destroy Lord Vral once and for all. You'll soar across 9 or so different galaxies, tracking your nemesis down while equipped with your Mecha Therion, a glorious suit of armor that's fully upgradable. Fans of the original game will appreciate all of the cutscenes and nods to the original, but don't exactly expect literary brilliance here, and nor should you. It's a shoot-'em-up game, come on. If anything, I tip my hat to Steel Mantis for including cutscenes at all, which are pretty well done despite the fact that the dialogue is a bit lacking. There's no voice performances or anything like that either. You didn't come here for the story, of course. You are here for the action, I know it. And in that department, Valfaris Mecha Therion more than delivers. Throughout the 3 to 4 hour campaign, you'll encounter all sorts of nasty mechanical baddies, weave through lasers, and gain new weaponry and upgrades to help you along the way. The action is pretty intense and it feels great. Players will also have quite a few different ways to dish out the damage. Your destroyer acts as your main gun, and there's everything from a plasma weapon to a flamethrower. Your melee attacks are swords, and you also have auxiliary attacks like an electric burst, which lets off a massive blast around your character and damages anyone that's nearby. On top of that, you can also equip modules which offer nice perks like additional health or the ability to toss one of your swords. Most of the weapons and modules are pretty easy to come across. However, some of these will be hidden, tucked away within secret crevices scattered across the various worlds. Finding new weaponry is only part of the fun, however, as the game has a good amount of checkpoints where you can perform upgrades. Here you'll spend the blood medal that you've earned by defeating foes and try to max out your favorite loadout. It's simple, but really effective. I loved seeing this in a shoot-'em-up game. Some upgrades will also require Blood of Valfaris, which is found throughout the campaign. You can sacrifice that blood for more metal if you lack one resource over the other. Pretty clever. Outside of that, your mecha also has the ability to dash, which can help you get out of the way of enemy attacks and lasers and bash through otherwise inaccessible areas. Valfaris Mecha Therion also has a stamina meter of sorts that will drain as you fire off your rounds. Luckily, you'll earn it back pretty easily by using melee attacks. I wasn't sure I'd like this system at first, but I ultimately really enjoyed that the game forced my hand a bit in utilizing all of my abilities. You'll have 3 difficulties to choose between, which are Mortal, Demigod, and Great Horned One. Basically, easy, normal, and hard if you couldn't figure that out. I went for the normal mode myself and did find the game a bit on the easy side, especially as I got more upgrades, so veterans to the genre may want to crank things up a notch. I should also mention the turn mode. Because enemies can swarm you from both directions at times, you have the option of turning on auto turn or doing it manually. The auto worked okay, but I did have a few instances where my character didn't turn like I would have liked, and that led to taking some hits I otherwise would have been able to avoid. Levels are pretty well designed for the most part, and they're really beautiful to take in. Valfaris Mecha Therion harkens back to the 32-bit era in some ways, reminding me of games like Einhander in its visual presentation. Everything has a gritty, pixelated look with lush organic color and creature designs. Boss encounters in particular are often screen-filling affairs and a spectacle to behold. The game feels quite cinematic while giving the player full control 99% of the time. And on the subject of controls, I didn't experience any sort of lag or performance issues, which is of course critical in an arcade-style shoot-'em-up. And while the game was a bit on the easy side, as I mentioned earlier, you do have that harder difficulty option and a New Game Plus, so that you can continue upgrading your equipment after the credits have rolled. That said, the package is a little bit bare bones. You have the campaign, but you don't have an arcade mode, you don't really have leaderboards or anything like like that. So at the time of this review, you really just have a campaign, getting all of the upgrades, finding all of the secrets, and that's about it. But boy, does the action feel fast, frantic, and smooth. I loved going through each and every level. I liked figuring out the bosses. They do throw some unique patterns at you here or there, and it's a fun game to learn, to get used to the enemy patterns, to learn the bosses. I really enjoyed that aspect of it, and I think players will enjoy going through it over and over again to really get good at it. Get good. I hate that phrase, but I just used it. The metal-infused soundtrack also brings the action to life in stunning fashion. Fast, frantic guitar leads soar over orchestrated strings, and that adds a good deal of melody to the compositions as a whole. It's a wonderful set of music that accompanies the explosive and excellent sound effects very well. If you aren't a fan of metal, this soundtrack may not appeal to you so much, but I personally really enjoyed it, and I remember the first Valfaris having a similar sound style, so it makes sense here. But all in all, Valfaris Mecha Therion is a surprisingly great arcade-style shoot-'em-up. While it's a departure from the original game, I found it to be a welcome one, with fun level design, excellent visuals, smooth controls, a great upgrade system, and manageable difficulty. I highly recommend checking this one out if you love the genre. You might run out of content a little bit sooner than you would have liked. It could have used an arcade mode, for example, some leaderboards, a few bells and whistles, but maybe they'll get patched down the road, who knows. Either way, fans of the original may be a bit thrown off by the change in the gameplay, but there's a lot of great action here regardless. I'm awarding Valfaris Mecha Therion the Silver Genie Lamp of approval.